If you would like to support the podcast and get some extra content while you're there, head on over to patreon.com/SevereMMA podcast and sign up. From the rewatch to the Q&A, we will have loads of content every week. So sign up, patreon.com/SevereMMA podcast. And now, here's the podcast. Welcome everybody. It's episode 399 of the SevereMMA podcast. My name is Sean Sheehan, joined today by the Phil Babb of Irish MMA Media, Graeme McDonald, as we talk about a mad night last night in the world of mixed martial arts. A good week for Irish MMA as well in the world of mixed martial arts. So we'll talk about all of that, and it's do you know what? We're getting back into the swing of things again in MMA. There was, eye pokes last night and people giving out a little bit about judging. Not too bad, but big fights and also we're kind of back into it 22 days into the new year. And do you know what? Before we get into all of that and we talk about all of that, we have some breaking news because Manscaped now sells beard products. That's right. They're once again revolutionizing men's grooming with the brand new Beard Hedger Pro Kit. From a beard trim to a fresh shave, the technology behind the Beard Hedger Pro Kit allows you to shape your signature beard look. Now you can finally use Manscaped's product to make your drapes match your carpet by going to manscaped.com and using the code SevereMMA for 20% off and free shipping. I'm actually, mine's in the post, Graeme. I think Manscaped are hooking us up, so I'm looking forward to getting it. I absolutely can't wait, and it's time for me and you and everyone to tame your mane. No one likes being a weird beard, so say goodbye to all your stubble trouble with Manscaped's Pro Beard Kit. It all starts with the Beard Hedger. This thing is a juggernaut of fixing faces. First off, this cordless trimmer has a rotary wheel that gives you 20 hair cutting lengths all with one guard. Oh, that's great, because I love that. So no more messy drawers full of extra add-ons. That's right, face grooming doesn't need to be hard to get 20 different beard lengths in just one guard. The one I have at the moment, Graeme, the old one, it's like, I think it's 8 lengths and it's no good. I always either have it too short or too long, so I badly need this. It's waterproof as well, the new Manscaped shaver, so you can shave in the shower to avoid all the hair in the sink. The titanium coated T-blade is tough on hair but smooth on your face, leading to a single stroke efficiency that brings satisfaction one stroke at a time. The Pro Kit doesn't end there though. They have created 4 dermatologist tested formulations for your post-trim care. Ooh,
nailed it.
It's weird because I was thinking dermatological, but it says dermatologist. Oh, dermatologist. What the fuck did I say? Dermatologist. I don't know what I said there.
It wasn't correct.
I don't know what you said, but it was wrong. First, there's a beard shampoo and conditioner. You need to remember all your hair is different. Your beard hair is more coarse and easier to manage than hair on your head. That's why the kit has made shampoo and conditioner specially designed to moisturize, reduce ingrown hairs, replace natural oils, and promote beard health. That's actually great. I always just throw a bit of shampoo in mine, so that's brilliant. Next, the kit has Manscaped's beard oil, and it's an essential piece for your main facial accessory. No one wants a guy whose beard is brittle and dry. The oil relieves dryness both on the beard and the skin beneath, while adding a little shimmer and shine, making you look extra fine. Cap off the beard kit with the Beard Balm, a pomade that shapes, styles, moisturizes and tames for a sculpted look to attract any fellows or dames. The Pro Beard Kit also comes with 3 free gifts: a beard brush, comb and scissors to ensure your beard is ready to impress. So get 20% off and free shipping with the code SevereMMA at manscaped.com. That's 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com. Use the code SevereMMA. Manscaped's Beard Hedger. 1 stroke, 1 guard, 20 lengths. That read was the toughest I've done in a while, because usually the Manscaped reads are basically, a performance package for it, but this is all brand new. I'm like, what's going on here? What they give me new words to read here? I've been reading basically the same words for the last 16 months or something like that. Now I've all new words. I'm not able for it, Graeme. It's too early in the morning.
Yeah, you can't do it on autopilot anymore.
Can't do an autopilot anymore. Let's get into UFC 283. Overall, Graeme, what was your thoughts on UFC 283 as a whole? Did you enjoy it? Was it a schlag? I know. Did you stay up all night? I know you were up some of the night to watch it. What way did you consume the card?
I watched up to Gilbert Burns and Neil Magny, and then managed to fall asleep after that. I'd wake up in the morning and watch the rest. But I wasn't spoiled or anything though, so yeah, it wasn't too bad. But yeah, I don't know. I couldn't make it. I couldn't last.
I was almost in the same boat because I decided not to have my energy drink last night. I'm not going, do you know what? No free sponsorship here. They come on and sponsor us if you wanted a shout out here. I managed not to drink my drink, which I usually do. And I'm
my undisclosed brands.
Undisclosed, monstrous energy drink.
Redacted
energy beep. But yeah, I didn't have it. And I was like 5 minutes before Moreno and Figueiredo, so a little bit after you, and I was like, oh, bollocks. Because I was thinking I'll go to bed and I'll watch the top two fights in bed. But I was like, if I do that, I'm definitely going to fall asleep. So I was like, I don't want to get up earlier tomorrow because I knew we had the time sorted and stuff for the podcast. So I'm like, do you know what? I'll just fucking stay up. But almost about 5 minutes after the main event was over, I was inside bed and I was sound to the world. So that was a great way of doing it. But yeah, I think as well, I didn't stay up for the one last week. I kind of got up for I woke up and I was like, I looked at my phone and the co-main event was on. So I was like, well, do you know what? I'll watch the co-main event and the main event and then went back to sleep. So I didn't have the whole staying up thing. And I think the fact that it's been 6 weeks or 7 weeks now, it feels like the old MMA cardio, the MMA watching cardio is a little bit gone. I don't have it anymore. So I'm going to probably have to get that back. But it was a pretty... Look, it was a good card on top. I just think the 15 fights was so much. I was mad up for this card when it started. And even the first few fights, I was like, oh, sweet, we're back to top class MMA. This is good. And then it was like, oh, God, is this card still on? And it's on, and it's on, and it's on. And then we got to the fucking next prelims, and then we got to the main card. And, it definitely dragged, but it was, I'm not complaining about it too much. It was a pretty good card and a pretty enjoyable one overall. Let's talk about the top fights and get straight into them. Let's talk about Jamal Hill against Glover Teixeira. It was, do you know what? It was one of those fights where I think it was really the expectation that we might have for both of them really happened. So the expectation probably here was Jamal Hill will be better than he ever was before. He's only 12 fights into his career, very, very young in his career still. He can only get better. There's probably parts of his game that we have never seen before, that we will see here, that will be improved. There are parts that we've seen before that will be better than they once were. And for Glover Teixeira, it's like he's 43 years of age. He's going to be a little bit older. He's going to maybe be a little bit slower. He's taking this on relatively short notice after having prepared for a fight just before Christmas. And I just think that's kind of the way it worked out. From the very start, Jamal was faster than Glover. He was stronger than him. He was able to land kind of at will, and then he was smart as well. And I think the improvements he showed were very, very small is not the word, but there weren't massive improvements that he showed, but very important ones. His ability he showed in the last fight.
In the details, he'd improved in the small details. I think
he did. His ability to switch stances was there in the last fight, and it's kind of always been there. But the way he did it, as a tactic more than, or as I suppose as a game plan more than a tactic, if you want to put it that way, was really, really good. And his jab was really, really good as well. His head kick as well. If you watch the preview show, I mentioned it on that. It didn't look great in the last fight, and it looked a damn sight better this fight. He landed it over and over and over. And I think Glover just so struggled to deal with that jab in the first couple of rounds. He really struggled with the fact that he couldn't take Jamal Hill down, and also the fact that although he did land a couple of shots, especially early. Now, the fight did change a little bit after that, but the fact that he couldn't really land on Jamal, and Jamal's shots were having a big effect, was a big, big problem for Glover when you know that you need to either A, land those shots to make him feel something to stop everything he's doing, or B, get that takedown to change the fight. And when he couldn't do that for long periods, it was a real tough start for Glover. What was your initial reaction, Graeme? I suppose we all know what they're like coming in. What was your initial reaction to the start and how it started over maybe the first 7 to 8 minutes?
Yeah, well, I was thinking that Jamal looked comfortable. Obviously it's a big spot. There was questions going into the fight about, is this too early for him? Has he really proven himself against the top guys? And he hadn't really proven himself against the top guys, but he looked really good in, the people he had beaten. And it was like, obvious to a lot of people, including you for a long time, one of the first people to kind of see the championship potential of Hill. So there was definitely questions to be asked if he was ready, but I think early on you could see that he was ready. I thought that as well, and I picked Hill to win the fight, and I was pretty comfortable with my pick from the the early moments or early minutes of the fight.
Yeah, I think I was too, to be honest. I think there was a lot of orthodox fighting for Hill, which is interesting because you see, and I think Harry kind of explained it well, how his left hand is such a weapon for him. And when you fight out of orthodox, your left hand is the jab, and then the jab was landing so well over and over and over. And as you said there, like, any questions that were maybe over him in terms of maybe not having enough experience or anything kind of quickly went out the window with the first maybe 2 takedowns stopped and his ability to control the fight so well. Like his kicks to the legs, kicks to the body.
Having said that, though, like there was a couple of moments, I think maybe in the second round, where he did look to be getting tired, and you think, maybe this could get nasty. But he managed to recover really well in the single minutes in between rounds. And I think there was another point later on where he looked maybe in the 4th round after he'd gone for the finish, kind of methodically, but hadn't got it. Where he looked like a little tired as well, but he kept getting another wind and kept going. So that was another question asked about, can he keep going? Can he keep up this insane volume? Like, he threw a ridiculous volume of punches. A lot of fighters would be wary of outputting that much in a fight with such a tough guy. When they haven't been 5 rounds with such a tough guy before. So yeah, credit to to Hill for that. Like, and I thought he answered loads of questions, and there's definitely room for improvement, and he's definitely still early in his career to be at a championship level and to be the champion. So he definitely has room to improve and will improve. By the looks of things, he seems to me to be improving fight to fight pretty noticeably.
100%. That takedown was in the second round as well, and I think it was looked like it was going to be a big turning point for Teixeira, but it actually kind of turned the other way. Like, I even tweeted, this has turned into a bit of a war of attrition now, and it's an advantage for Glover. But what was brilliant about this was Hill got up and then he got straight back to what he was doing. Like, the fight last week between Strickland and Imavov, it was exactly what happened here, but in the opposite direction. Like, Imavov did well at the start. Strickland took about 2 or 3 minutes to turn it around, and then Imavov never was able to get the initiative back. Whereas Hill here lost that initiative that he had for the first 8 minutes maybe-ish. Lost it for maybe 2 minutes. Glover got the takedown. He got on top. He was landing a few shots, but he immediately got it back at the end of the second round. And in the third round was a 10-8 basically, because he landed so many head kicks. He had him badly in trouble a few times. It was even worse in the fourth. He almost finished him. I was sure Mark Goddard was going to step in at one stage. Goddard is a guy who's very good at calling the standing stoppages. I think he's the best in the world at that. And he didn't call this one. And look, Glover came out and he fought well in the 5th round. It was probably the closest round of every round, if we're being honest. Still lost it, I think, but he gave a good show of himself, I suppose, in that last round. But I think there are so many things to look at Jamal here and see what a brilliant fighter he really is. He's still very much a prospect even, because he has improved massively on his jabbing in the last few fights. He's improved massively on his tactics, and his technique has massively improved. He showed last night he is hard, because as you said, Graeme, a couple of times he was hit, and look, there was a big mouse right underneath his eye, and there was a bit of blood, and Glover's blood was all over him, and Glover took him down, and the Brazilian crowd, he got through all of that. To have not just the heart but also the head to do that is a massive thing. And when you're constantly improving and massively improving the way he is, it's it's frightening to think where he could go. Like, if you even go back, because I watched a couple of his fights this week, obviously preparing for it, and you watch a couple of those fights, even the Thiago Santos one, it's like night and day between him then and him now. He's just so much calmer, cooler, and better as a fighter. It's absolutely ridiculous. And you mentioned there, like, I did champion him a couple of years ago, and I think at the end of 2021, I put him in my predictions for 2022 to be a champion, and now I missed out by 21 days. I was close, but I was even saying it before that I think this guy is a real standout, because he's just, sometimes you look at a guy and you look at the way they move and you look at the results they have, but the scope they have to improve as well, getting those results. Like, I said it after his last fight, I think Jamal Hill has the ability to be a champion right now, and I think there's about 4 years of improvement left in him. That is a mad thought. Like, people saying last night, I still think Yuri Prochazka might beat him. Right now, maybe, but what's Jamal Hill going to be like in a year? What's he going to be like in 18 months? It's very, very exciting. Very exciting to see a guy with that potential already getting to where he is. Like, he won a title bet on potential nearly. He really did. He's that good. He is unbelievable, and it was a great performance here again. Maybe I'm getting a little ahead of myself there, Graeme, but what did you think of in that kind of third round to fourth round? Did you think it should have been stopped there? Was it getting a little bit too much? Were you happy with the way Goddard handled it?
In the third, I think it was probably just about okay. In the fourth, I thought it was going to be stopped, and I think when I didn't actually hear this, when the commentary, they were saying that one of his cornermen was asking, "Can we stop this?" I think,
John Hackelman.
Yeah, I didn't actually hear it myself, but the commentary were saying that he had said that. So, if one of the coaches is saying that, and the damage that he taken, Goddard did get really close to the two fighters on a few occasions. So he was definitely thinking about stopping it. And I'm surprised when maybe he didn't hear that. Maybe Goddard didn't hear the coach asking that. But yeah, I was a little surprised that it wasn't stopped at the end of the fourth or in between rounds in the fourth and the fifth. But maybe it was part that Glover had said to his coaches and stuff, and maybe to everybody around, that he was going to retire after this one. They kind of, let me go out with my shield kind of thing. These guys don't want the towel to be thrown in. They don't want to quit, especially somebody like, Glover. He said himself afterwards, maybe it's time I retire because I'm too tough for my own good. And he's probably right, and maybe ideally for his future and for his brain, the fight would have been stopped, but maybe, for his state of mind and his happiness with his own career and his legacy, maybe he's happier with that than the towel being thrown in.
Yeah, and it's interesting as well that the fact that, sometimes we look at guys like John Hackelman and maybe even at this stage Greg Jackson and them, and we think, maybe they're being bypassed a little bit. But that knowledge, I remember I talked to John Hackelman years ago, like, I don't know, Jesus, maybe 10 years ago or something. And he always came across as, and some people have their issues and stuff. He always came across as a guy who really got the kind of, I suppose, the intricacies of cornering or the intricacies of the right thing to do in those situations, because it's not always easy. It's easy for us to sit in our fucking couch and judge the fight or ref the fight or corner the fight, but when you're in that situation, it's a very, very tough thing to do. And I think the fact that I'm just saying this based on what it seemed last night and what the commentary said, but he wasn't like the number one corner. I don't know if he works with Glover as extensively as he once used to. I don't think he's in the MMA game as extensively as he once used to be. Obviously with Chuck Liddell, he was at one stage one of the top trainers in the world, one of the top fighters in the world. So maybe if he was the number one guy in there at the time, and I think he was outside the cage when he was calling for this, maybe it would have happened. I wouldn't have questioned it. I think after that fourth round, he was kind of in a bad way, and he was needing to do something. There's another fight later which we'll talk about. Obviously, it was a similar sort of thing. It's a little bit, when it's an older fighter, when they've taken so many licks already, it just looks a little bit worse in terms of, like, I feel bad for him, but it shouldn't really, because it's the same for everyone. You know, eventually those young fighters will become all fighters as well, and it doesn't matter when you take it, it's about taking it. So, you know,
I don't think it's that bad, because he still had a potential, you know, method of victory, which, you know, if he did get on top in the 5th round, it wasn't as if, you know, he'd been beaten everywhere constantly, and there was no hope whatsoever. You know, he'd shown in the past that he can overcome these things, and maybe that was part of what was in their head. But it's not as clear cut as some other ones. But I probably, you know, if it, as you said, if it had been stopped between rounds, I don't think anybody would have been complaining.
Yeah, and he did get the big takedown in the 5th as well, and like, we were thinking, oh shit, is this gonna turn around? But again, Jamal Hill did very well. They were saying in the commentary, he sprinted out of it there. I don't think he did. I think he spotted the fucking gap, got out of there really, really well, and like, I don't think they were giving him half enough credit. I think his defensive work on the ground as well was absolutely fantastic, was Jamal Hill. I couldn't be more impressed with him. I think he was great.
Maybe part of that is how underrated Glover's wrestling and grappling 100%. always is, and you know, we've seen, I don't know why, because you've seen him use it to great effect so many times, but for some reason it just doesn't seem to have caught on in terms of you know, the ability. His ground game is rated at. I don't know why. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
If you ask hardcore fans, I think most of them would say that he's been brilliant wrestler, brilliant on the ground, underrated. But the commentators, I don't know, they I don't know, they just have never seemed to give the respect that he earned, I think, for his grappling and wrestling. I don't know.
I think it's strange. It's the same in a lot of sports, though. People don't see the reality of what's in front of them because they have this.
Maybe if he was American or Russian, they'd be talking it up much more. Like, just because he's Brazilian, I don't know. 100%. But Brazilian jiu-jitsu, I don't know. It's really it's a weird one.
Like, it's because he started off, like, when Glover Teixeira came into the UFC, I suppose, before that, and everyone knew him as a really good striker. But, like, we've talked about it for probably the last 4 or 5 years here, about how much his wrestling is underrated and how good it is and how often he uses it. And the fact that that's still a thing. And to be fair, they did mention it a few times last night, but previously, I think, and even like that subconscious thing when they get in that position, as you mentioned, it does seem to be underrated. And I think, like, if he was an NCAA wrestler, or if he was from Dagestan or something, that would not be there. I don't think it absolutely would not be there. But Glover Teixeira is every bit as good as any one of them, as he showed in his fights over the last few years, and he deserves that credit for it. And Jamal Hill deserves the credit for being able to deal with it as well. So, you know, it was really turning of the tides here, I suppose. One guy reaching his potential and becoming a champion, and one guy finding the end, I suppose, of what was a very, very fun and good career, and a career that had I suppose many highs, and like, usually in MMA, right, even if you get to the top or whatever, you have maybe one high or two highs, but the fact that Glover, you know, got to the title fight against John Jones, then came back and won the title, lost it, and now came back again to fight for it. That's kind of mad, you know. That's a thing that doesn't happen as much, I suppose, in MMA. Maybe more recently, and especially with the guys that are big draws, maybe. But for a guy who isn't like a big draw or whatever you might want to say about him, it doesn't happen. So that's testament to him, and especially at this age as well. I know we're #MMA retirements, Graeme, and we're looking forward to his next one and all, but Glover's career has been a real fun one, and it's one that, like, you know, it's a storied one, I suppose, with he can't get into America. This you know, we used to hear about these people. This guy in the gym, if you ever saw him, he can't fight in America. He can't get a visa. This guy's knocking out Chuck Liddell in the gym, and he's better than Chuck Liddell. Chuck Liddell's #1 guy in the world, and he's over and he's fighting in Shooto, and he's winning, you know, like 10 fights in a row or whatever, and he's beating Dean Lister in grappling, and he's knocking lads out all over the place. And if we could just get him to America, he'd be the guy. And then he ends up coming over. Maybe it doesn't go brilliantly at the very, very start. He does get to the title, loses to John Jones and all of that, but everyone's saying, he's a bit old. He's a bit old. That was 9 years ago. He was a bit old, and now he's still doing it. And he comes back. It's something I don't know. Maybe we'd still have a bit of it, because there's always maybe lads in Bellator or lads over in One Championship and stuff that don't manage to come. But this seemed a little bit different, Graeme, didn't it? He seemed like this wild, you know, a wild cat in the forest behind your house.
Yeah.
Just kind of
the unknown factor back then of not being able to, you know, get fight videos anywhere
Yes.
of like obscure events in Brazil or wherever these guys were fighting, and you know, sometimes even guys who are about to fight in the UFC, you wouldn't know anything about them, and it'd be kind of intriguing. It's like that, you know, when they show the monster in a horror movie, it kind of takes away from it. When they don't show him and he's just kind of creeping around, it's more scary. It's more mythical. So yeah, I think that played into it. And when he came in, maybe people thought all that hype was just a load of bullshit, and this guy, you know, missed it, or maybe he missed the boat, or it was too late, or whatever. But he stuck at it. He kept improving at an older age, when, you know, he'd been in the game a long time, and managed to get his way to a title shot, win that, you know, and be competitive in you know, main events for other titles after losing it and things like that. So he proved himself as kind of what people hoped from him, and what people said back then, and people living up to the hype back then is a rare thing. And you know, you mentioned #MMA retirements there. I don't know why, but for some reason I believe this one. I think maybe you know, we won't see him in any other we won't see him boxing, we won't see him bare knuckle. I think, you know, he's got a kind of a fighter in Alex Bahia to work on. He's got a kind of goal to work towards. I hope anyway. I really hope that he doesn't come back and, you know, have it end like really badly. You know, he obviously took a beating, but he took a brave beating, and was in the fight, you know. And even in the 5th round, he had his best round, so he can go out with his head held high, and, you know, hopefully can focus on being a coach and things like that. So hopefully, maybe it's a hopeful thing, but I think hopefully we have seen the last of Glover, and for some reason I do believe this retirement.
I do as well. I think the fact that, like, he has his gym, and is it Danbury, Connecticut? He seems like a real part of the community. He seems like he has settled in there, and he has a happy life and a fulfilling life outside of MMA fighting anyway. That'll help, you know, because that's one thing a lot of fighters, I suppose, don't have. And the fact that he's already transitioned over to become a coach will massively help as well. So yeah, I think I don't think we'll see him back, and that's good. He's reached his time. I loved watching him fight down through the years. You know, there hasn't been a bigger MMA podcast who's given props to Glover Teixeira as much as we have. So I'm proud of that too, and I'm looking forward to seeing him coaching for Alex Pereira and maybe a few more over the years. But yeah. And Jamal Hill, then, obviously, congratulations to him and myself.
Alex Bahia versus Jamal Hill right now. Who wins?
Jamal Hill, I think, definitely.
Alex Bahia could be a double champion, though. It's possible if that was to happen.
Good. We'll see. But imagine that, like 7 fights into your career, fucking double champion. That'd be insane. But no, I think Jamal Hill is too well rounded. But any more credit for me there, Graeme, for picking out Jamal Hill? Remember,
I gave you credit earlier.
You did. But that time
don't be milking it. Don't be milking it.
No, I have to milk it for a second. That time we did like the prediction show, and then he won a fight like 6 weeks later or something. And when I did the prediction, I think a few people were like, oh, what the fuck are you talking about, Jamal Hill? And then 6 weeks later, everyone's like, oh, this guy could be a future champion. It's amazing how quickly MMA actually turns, where like a prediction is really bold, and then later on it's like, oh, what the fuck are you talking about? Of course he is, kind of job. But yeah.
I'd have to go back and check it, but I think I might have said when you made the prediction that might be a bit too early, maybe.
Yeah,
you know.
And it was a bit too early. 3 weeks. 3 weeks.
So you can give me full credit for that one.
Full credit for you.
Partial credit for the.
Can I get another?
You can get the assist points.
Can I get another point for getting it right? No. Can I get another point? No.
You didn't get it right though.
It was close. We run
very, very close.
Remember the fact we took like 6 weeks off.
You lost by a nose.
We took off 6 weeks for the pandemic. Should we not backtrack 6 weeks? So this actually happened in December. Sure.
Yeah, that's not how calendar works.
That's not how calendars work. I love it. All right, let's talk about the co-main event, the quadrology, I suppose, and
the Phantom Eye Poke.
The Phantom Eye Poke. This one didn't really live up to the hype, did it? It was a bit of a weird fight, to be honest. It was close for the first 2 rounds, even though Daniel Cormier didn't think that, which was absolutely bizarre. And we know the reason, because Moreno got 2 takedowns in the first round, and he got 1 takedown, I think, was it in the second round. And it absolutely nothing with any of them except getting nearly submitted.
Don't be insulting the king of snot rockets. Come on.
I actually I turned the TV down as much as I could last night, and I turned it up a little bit for the co-main event, and immediately I was like, oh no, what do you do? Anyway, I will stay off of him, but yeah, look, the fight started with a takedown from Moreno. He got caught in a guillotine of Figueiredo, but not a great guillotine. That was probably, an even enough round at that stage. A takedown didn't score, the guillotine didn't really score. I thought Figueiredo was landing a little bit more, Moreno got a late takedown, the leg lock, there was like an illegal kick on the ground that, was it Herb Dean? Didn't manage to see, but that was grand anyway, a very even round. I gave it to Figueiredo. I think most people gave it to Moreno. I think all three judges gave it to Moreno. The second round, all three judges gave it to Figueiredo. I gave it to Figueiredo too, and there was like indignation in after that from some people, like that. How in God's name was Moreno not 2-0 up at that stage? But yeah, Figueiredo got a takedown early. Nothing really came of that either. Moreno was like kind of winning on the feet, but it was very, very close, I thought. And then Figueiredo, Moreno got a late takedown, and Figueiredo very much almost guillotined him there. I thought that was very, very close. And even if it wasn't, I think...
I don't know. The angle of the elbow just looked a bit strange to me. I don't know. I was wondering, is this actually, while it was happening, I was wondering, is this actually close, or is it just me, or does the elbow look like it's like in a strange position and that he's actually okay here?
I think the key to scoring this is how much Moreno had to defend. And if you look at him at the start, he was like pushing one hand in to try to get the grip off, push the second hand in to have to get the grip off, and then had to pull the head really hard to pull it out to get out. That's you have to defend. You force the guy to defend. That's effective grappling. And like people were saying after this as well, oh, I don't know, grappling doesn't score, does it? Because Moreno didn't get a takedown. The effective grappling was clearly Figueiredo's here. He almost submitted him. So, yeah, well, maybe you could fairly maybe say he didn't almost submit him, but he absolutely made him defend for his life for like 30 seconds. If he hadn't defended, would he have gotten submitted? I think he probably would have. So, I think that scores. I think Figueiredo won the round because of that, and he did. All three judges gave to him. I think that's great judging. I think it's actually a very good round to go and watch. Now, look, the first round especially could have gone either way. I could see this 1-1, but look, it didn't matter in the end anyway. After that, Figueiredo just didn't really seem the same, and came into the second round. He got hit with that, or the third round, sorry. He got hit with the thumb to the eye, if you want to put it that way, the side of the thumb. And the second it happened, I was like, oh shit, he's after getting badly injured here. Like to me, I don't know, it was just a pure call on my part, and luckily I think I got it right. But I was like, this isn't an eye poke, this is a broken orbital or something. This is a bad injury. Like this, because usually when it's an eye poke, they start to like poke at their eye, or they start to like clean it out, or they call the referee. This one was like an immediate, oh fuck, it's pain more than anything else. And then he called the referee, absolutely. But I think from that point, Figueiredo knew what was going to happen, and I think in the corner he kind of knew what was going to happen as well. And like, credit to Moreno, and Figueiredo did try to say it was an eye poke kind of, and he did try to play it up as you would, I suppose. But yeah, I don't think there's too much controversy on this. The weird thing about this is, right, it looked controversial because the crowd made it sound controversial. The crowd just turned this into like, Figueiredo has been absolutely fucking robbed. Can't believe what's happening here. Moreno clearly poked him, throwing fucking drinks and beers and sandwiches at Moreno as he walked out and all that. But like, he hit him with a shot. He badly injured him. His eye closed up. That was that, really. Wasn't it? What was your take on it, Graeme? Have you any different take on him?
Yeah, no, I agree with you. Obviously, the Brazilian crowd were hoping for their guy, and reacted badly, and you can understand that. In the moment, they're probably going to believe their guy, who's kind of he's obviously trying to buy time, I think, to try and recuperate after he assess the damage, or try and just give himself a little break. And yeah, I think it was the punch. I think the thumb kind of brushed off the other side, and I think it was pretty obvious on the replays that it was the punch that had done the damage, and the swelling afterwards then pretty much confirmed that, in my opinion. So I think it was a clean TKO, and I don't think there was like egregious eye pokes or fouls or anything. If there was any egregious fouls, it was Figueiredo with that kick on the ground that as you mentioned, the referee just seemed to miss until Brandon Moreno had to be like, here, what the fuck. I think Figueiredo fans will probably have something to complain about, but I think from Moreno side of things, and from a fairness standpoint, I don't think anything happened here.
Yeah, I would tend to agree. It was a weird fight, because even though I had Figueiredo 2 rounds up, I still think Moreno was probably going to win it. One judge gave him a 10-8 in the third round as well for that shot, which I don't know, I maybe questioned that a little bit, but it didn't matter in the end. But and the fact that judges as well, to remind me, the judges had the first round for Moreno as well. It felt like Figueiredo, and we talked about this in the preview show as well, he needed to fight a more confident fight than he had last time out, even though he won the last time out, because we knew that Moreno would up it, and I think Moreno did up it. Maybe Figueiredo was trying to. Maybe that was his game plan. But the fact that early takedown, okay, it didn't do much in terms of scoring or anything, but it's like throwing a cold glass of water in someone's face or something. It's like, right, we're in a fight, here's your plan. Oh, no, wait, that plan's gone. Like, no one's plan is to get taken down in the first fucking 5 seconds of the fight. That's a very intelligent thing, right? Even if it doesn't do anything necessarily in the fight itself, it's very hard for that fighter to, like, right, I'm set now, here goes the bell, let's start, to I'm set now, I'm taken down, fuck, I have to set again and go again. That's not a very easy thing for anyone, for even the most experienced people in the world to do. So that's a very interesting tactic. Like, it's a very interesting, and I think that's a thing more people might actually look to do. Well, maybe if not even a takedown, but maybe like, throwing that flying knee or doing something mad immediately. McGregor used to always do. Remember, he did it in the Dublin fight, and people were giving out to him saying he didn't, touch hands or whatever, even though that was, it wasn't that. But remember, he threw that wheel kick or the spinning kick or whatever it was against Diego Brandão. We've seen it down through the years. Masvidal obviously and Ben Askren was to great effect, but I think that's an interesting tactic, and credit to Moreno for doing that and for kind of maybe changing it. But Figueiredo, even though he had good moments in the fight, he had a couple of submission attempts with the leg lock and with the guillotine, and he did land some good shots on the feet. It just felt like what makes Figueiredo special is like his devastating power, athleticism, finishing ability for a guy who's a little bit, who's a smaller guy. And to give away that, to fight a tactical fight against someone who is very hard to outpoint, I suppose, and very hard to outlast, just seems a bit foolhardy. Like, it worked once. Was it going to work again? I just don't know. Like, and I suppose it's easy to say that, and maybe it's not actually easy to say that, the fact that the fight finished, but I don't know. The game plan. Well, now maybe, as I said, maybe Moreno took away that game plan, but I don't know if the game plan was the best there. What did you think overall of Figueiredo's performance and the fight?
The fact that he looks so bad making the weight and kind of retired from put his gloves down for the division after this one, how much is that playing into his game plan, and he has to adjust in order to, get through the weakening of his body that he has to do beforehand. It must be a big problem if immediately when he loses, he, puts down his gloves and says he's retiring from the division and moving up. So maybe that's part of it. But I do think, you're right. And Moreno coming out, catching him unawares with a game plan or a tactic that he wasn't preparing for in the camp, definitely would have thrown him off a little bit. And maybe we're not giving enough credit to Moreno as well. He's like, he's developed over the last few years at a ridiculous rate, and obviously he's more confident than ever. He's at the top of the game when, I don't think anybody, and not many anyway, would have predicted that a few years ago when he was first in the UFC. So, credit to him. But yeah, I do think, something is missing with Figueiredo, and I suspect it might have something to do with the weight and, not being able to work on game planning and improving as much when you're constantly worried during camp about getting your weight down. All questions like weeks out and thing are all about your weight. It's probably a big drain mentally and obviously on the body and on the time you have to improve and to work on game plans and things like that.
Yeah, 100%. I think the move up to 135 will be good for him, as you kind of alluded to there. He won't have the size advantage up there, but hopefully he'll be able to, trust his cardio a little bit more. I think that's a massive problem for him. He doesn't trust himself to be in the fourth, fifth, and fourth and fifth rounds. Where'd the sixth round come from? In these fights, like him in a 3-round fight at 135, I think you'd see an absolute monster there. So hopefully we see that. And now I'm really happy for Brandon Moreno as well, because maybe not last night in Brazil and all, but now, there was always like a question over his championship, I suppose, and especially when you're the interim champion as well last time out. It's like, the other guy is the real champ or whatever, and that was very unfair, and I think it's always unfair. And the fact now that he's kind of put a bow on this, he was the better fighter in most of this quadrilogy, or tetralogy, or whatever the fuck it's called. He was the better fighter in most of it.
What is it called?
I don't care. I don't care. It's over now. We probably will never have to deal with one again. So who gives a fuck?
What about the quintology?
Quintology. That seems better. That seems a more actual word. Do you
think part of the reason why maybe people haven't been respecting Moreno as much is maybe Demetrius Johnson kind of being lurking in the shadows still, and maybe the same with Figueiredo, or do you think that's kind of gone from the consciousness?
I don't know. My thought last night when people were talking about this, Demetrius Johnson did come into my head, I'll be honest. So maybe, who would you pick to win a fight that happened in 6 months' time, Brandon Moreno or Demetrius Johnson?
Demetrius Johnson.
Yeah, I think I probably still would as well, even though he's maybe not the same as he once was. And he's fighting, to remember as well now, Demetrius is fighting at 135, even though it's 125 with one championship, but their weight cutting thing is weird as well. So a little bit, I think, for the hardcores, or for the people who actually know how good Demetrius Johnson was and weren't just listening to Dana White and his bullshit, domestic abusing Dana White and his bullshit. Yeah, maybe a little bit. But also the fact Henry Cejudo as well is another one. He was a guy who was the champion and he left, and just that happens a little bit. But it also happens people probably said the same about Daniel Cormier after John Jones left. People probably said the same about Johnny Hendricks or Robbie Lawler or whoever after GSP left. That's a thing that's going to happen when you have a great coming, a good fighter like Moreno or DC or Hendricks or Robbie Lawler. Maybe not Robbie Lawler, not necessarily, but coming after a great fighter. They're obviously, not as good, but they still deserve their credit, and all of those guys who I mentioned doing, Brandon Moreno does as well. And I think the fact that he's become, a multiple-time champion now is a testament to how good he is as well. So credit to him. Big Funko Pop fan as well, like myself, so great. Right, let's run through the rest of the card, Graeme. Gilbert Burns made really easy work of Neil Magny.
Yeah, I thought Neil Magny might put up a bit more of a scrappy kind of fight, but yeah, he just got completely dominated, and Gilbert Burns just made it look simple, and it just kind of showed that he's kind of several levels above.
When I was doing the betting show during the week, I was I kind of avoided this one a little bit because I was I don't really like any of the prices, and Burns is a massive favourite, and sometimes you don't know what Magny's going to show up. As you said, he put up a good fight sometimes, but then I was in the middle of watching the card last night and I looked at the prices, and Gilbert Burns was almost even money to get the finish, either submission or knockout, and I was I have to bet on that. That price is just thinking about it, this is Gilbert Burns. Remember him against Chimaev. Remember how fucking unbelievable he was in that fight. This guy's a monster. Remember talking to Ian Gary about him a while back, and he was saying this guy is he's brilliant jiu-jitsu, he's brilliant cardio, he hits as hard as fuck, very good wrestling. What's missing on Gilbert Burns? What's missing? And I was thinking about that as I was fuck it, yeah, but I threw a few quid in him. So he's just so good, Gilbert Burns is. And there's a weird thing now at welterweight, because you have obviously Usman and Edwards are rematching coming up here, and that was announced last week. Looks like Colby is still out and will be out for another while. And then you've this Chimaev monster just kind of hanging around waiting for a shot at two divisions. I don't know where that's going to go. And then you've guys like Gilbert Burns.
Can he be trusted to be put in right now to a welterweight?
I think they would if they could, to be honest, because he's such a star and such a guy people want to see in those big fights against the best in the world. So I think they would.
But what's he walking around at now? You know, he could be walking around at anything.
It's hard to know. It's weird with Chimaev as well, because remember, like, he got the real bad dose of the COVID that time, and he was like, it felt like he himself was talking about he didn't, get over it correctly, and he's just, I don't know. It feels like he hasn't been the same guy, still been a dominant fighter, but it feels like he hasn't been the same guy wanting to fight every 4 weeks since then and things. And I'm not necessarily saying it's the sickness or
probably
anything
the money.
like that, but maybe it is the money. Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, maybe it is that. I was talking to actually a couple of my friends yesterday about, like, soccer players when they get to a certain age, like say, Man United are linked with Harry Kane now, and he's 30 years of age and things. And sometimes, like, you've seen it with Steven Gerrard or Fernando Torres or myself, Wayne Rooney and stuff. Sometimes they just overnight gone from a great player to a bad player. And, like, I wonder how much that has got to do with, like, I've reached a stage of my life where I'll never need money again, and just this mental thing kind of turns. And for MMA fighters, it's a lot fucking less, considering, like, these guys are on fucking 50 grand a fight if you're doing very, very well. But, like, how much money did you have before that? Where did you come from? Like, 50 grand to me is very much different to 50 grand to Wayne Rooney, if you want to put it that way. Like, and how does that change you in the short term? I think that's the thing we talk about with, say, someone like McGregor because he has so much money, but sometimes we don't talk about it. Like Amanda Nunes is one as well that we kind of mentioned it before and after, especially the last 2 fights. But before, it was never really a thing. And I think, it could be a thing as well. I'm sure Chimaev probably has big sponsors and is getting a lot of money in the side of the world he's from as well. So yeah, I think that could be it. But, like, for Burns and for a guy like Bilal Muhammad, they're kind of stuck in this limbo now, whereas maybe the two of them should just fucking fight, and one will emerge, and the winner of that will probably fight for the title then. But you feel bad for the two of them because they probably should be fighting to be next in line for the title in terms of, like, arguing, not an actual fight, but they might actually have to fight because Chimaev's out there. But one of them should probably be, lined up. Like, if it is Edwards that wins the next fight, Burns could be it, because obviously Burns has fought Usman before. But, like, Bilal is a guy who's really done a lot and earned a lot of his position, and you feel bad for him not getting title shots. But look, that's the way the cookie crumbles, I suppose. Jessica Andrade as well is doing her best to get back to the title shot. She absolutely decimated Lauren Murphy over 3 rounds.
See, this is one that, like, I'd want stopped more than the Glover one, because she 100%. Just had no method to victory. She was just like, this is only going one way and there's no possible way it's going any other way.
This is the one, like, I don't think there was ever as clear a fight for a corner stoppage as this one. Like, a lot of people were giving out about the referee, and I think it was Osiris Maya, who is not the best referee in the world. But sometimes a referee, like, you remember that I think it was Anthony Smith and Glover, was it, where Jason Herzog was the referee, and there was never, like, a proper time where it made 100% sense to stop it. And he got awful fucking lambasted for that. And eventually he did kind of stop it. But at those sort of fights, right, where the fighter is always intelligently defending themselves but still taking a fucking raucous beating, that's where the corner should step in. It's like, my fighter is getting changed here for the rest of their career. They have as you said, Graeme, no method of victory here. They're not going to make a comeback. They don't have big power. They're not as good a striker as them. It's clearly been shown. They're not as good a grappler as them. It's clearly been shown. They have no way to win. I am just letting my fighter take unnecessary abuse here. And, like, I really think sometimes it's easy to blame the referees. And, I stick by the judges here and I stick up for them. Not as much sticking up for the referees. But in this case, I don't look. Could the referee have stopped it? Maybe a couple of times, all right, but the corner should have been in here and the corner should have thrown in the towel. I don't care if it's against the rules or if it's not against the rules, or they should have stopped it between rounds. This was a horrible beating. Absolutely just beat her from pillar to post. And, like, Lauren Murphy is as tough as hell, and like Glover, she's probably too tough for her own good as well. But, like, we didn't need to see this go 15 minutes. It was never, ever, ever going to change. And it's a tough one. But look, credit to Lauren Murphy for being tough, but credit
like
to Jessica
in boxing. I don't watch that much boxing, but when you do, something like this will just be not immediately, but will be stopped in pretty
towel will come in,
yeah, or the ref would just wave it off as standing stoppage, like. Yeah, I don't know. Like if it was a title fight or something, and like you'd worked your way there for years and things like that, maybe you give them a little bit more leeway, even though that's not in the rules. You can understand kind of human nature, but it was just so unnecessary here.
Yeah, it really was. Yeah. But look, credit to Jessica Andrade. She put on a wonderful performance, looked really good, looked powerful, and looked, it couldn't have been an easier matchup, if we're being honest. And I think a lot of people who probably had bet on the finish here were probably gone mad. They're like, what the fuck? How did this not get finished? Like the main event too, I suppose, in a way. I was like, I had a double actually with the main event and it to be finished, and I one of the other fights to finish as well, so I was like, fuck it. Never finished, bastards. But anyway, that seems to happen in MMA sometimes. Anyway, one fight that did get finished.
Shawnee Walker,
Shawnee Schuler, Ireland's own against Paul Craig, the Celtic clash, the clash of the Celts. And did you see my prediction for this one, Graeme? See what I tweeted?
I think so. Okay, refresh my memory.
So I tweeted before the fight that my prediction is that Johnny Walker would KO Paul Craig with standing hammer fists from the north-south position.
From north-south position. That was pretty specific.
Wait, it wasn't necessarily exactly what I was thinking, but it was a pretty good fucking prediction, I would say.
Yeah, Jesus. It was like, he generated a lot of power. You could see straight away that those shots were impactful, and Craig was reacting to them, and it's something you really don't see, especially from that kind of strange angle with the backward motion. I can't remember any fight where I've seen that before. Like, we've seen some mad things from Johnny Walker in the past.
Usually with the elbows, isn't it? Like, we see guys knocking people out in that position with the elbows. We've seen Kiefer Crosby getting a few, and McGregor got one back in the day.
But even the position of his body was just kind of a little different, where you would think he shouldn't be able to generate as much impact and damage as he was, but you could see that the strikes were crisp and that they were hurting him, and I think there's a very good stoppage. I didn't see Paul Craig complaining, and it's a big win for Johnny Walker. He looks to kind of settle back down after a bit of a turbulent couple of years, and he looks to be more well-rounded, more comfortable in positions than he did before, and he definitely always has that kind of crazy striking, and has shown again that he has a lot of power. So yeah, in my opinion, he's still a very good prospect, and he's learning on the job, but he's shown new wrinkles to his game.
Yeah, 100%. Like, I think John Kavanagh, and must give credit to him. A lot of people give out about John Kavanagh an awful lot, but I think the job he's done with Johnny Walker to kind of adjust his game to become a more, I suppose, what's the word you would give it? A tactical fighter, maybe even. Like, he needed a little bit of that with the mad athleticism and the ability to finish people like this. If you can put those two things together, you're going to be a dangerous fighter. And okay, there was a couple of fights maybe where he didn't put them together, where it was all kind of tactics, and we're like, we've lost the beautiful Johnny Walker that we once had. But like, it takes time, and I think Johnny's a dangerous guy. I was talking to Will Fleury about him the other day. I interviewed him, and I think it was off camera, but he was saying, Jesus, Johnny, the athletic gifts that man has, and there's no harder worker in the gym than him as well. That's a good sign. Like, so I'd be very, very, I'm very, very interested to see what Johnny Walker does over the next while. It seems like he's loving life in Ireland as well. He got married there recently, and as well, if you think about it, right, Johnny Walker, he has Carl Moore and Will Fleury, two guys who are in different promotions to him, similar size and weight class, Carl Moore just beat the number 5, number 6 guy in the world in Bellator. Will Fleury, was a champion over in UAE Warriors and was doing well in Bellator, and now is in PFL as well. Some pretty good training for all three of those guys, to be fair, where in an area, I suppose, and most areas, like, where it's hard to get big guys and hard to get training. So those three guys have all shown massive improvements training with each other, and that's fun to see. That we're used to seeing maybe the smaller guys coming through, whether it's Conor or Artem or Franz or Brian Moore and all, but to see the big boys coming through, it's great to see. And obviously we've had a few big boys too, like Chris Fields and others down through the years, but yeah, it's great to see, and congratulations to the SBG team and Johnny Walker, and fair play. Shogun, Graeme. Shogun. What about this Ihor Potieria? What a bollocks! Like,
why did they make this matchup even?
Like, I don't know. To be fair, this lad was 0-1 in the UFC coming off the Contender Series. Were they trying to get Shogun to win like here with this? I don't know. But
maybe that was it. But you know, I don't know. It's just a kind of sad. Hopefully the end of probably not the end of Shogun's career, combat sports career. Probably see him back at some stage in something. I wouldn't be as quick to buy the retirement talk as with Glover, but yeah, I think maybe they should have given him another kind of legend that's gone on the way out, and then one of them can kind of ride off with a win, and hopefully. But I don't know. This Pretoria fight was just a really odd one. I don't know. Maybe you're right. They were trying to give him a win, but that didn't go to plan at all.
No, I think Nolan King put out a good tweet about it. It's like, we can never have a nice ending to someone's career when they get knocked out by an 0-1 Dana White Contender Series guy who then goes and like basically dances over their fallen body afterwards. It was just all bad, to be honest. But forget
that's MMA.
It is. That's exactly what MMA is. That is like you were saying there earlier on. Glover Sherry got the shit beat out of him for 5 rounds. Like, that's a good way to go out. And in MMA, it probably fucking is.
Yeah, for MMA, that's pretty fairy tale stuff.
It is fairy tale stuff. But like Shogun has been a legend, and we don't really do these whole like. MMA fucking recounted stuff with guys who just retired, because like I'd be surprised if Shogun didn't fight again, if I'm being honest. Like, he gave a good speech and all that, but he's been a legend of a fighter. You know, we talked about it in the previous show a little bit, but he's had the amount of guys he's fought, the stuff he's done, you know, absolute legend of the game. And if you haven't watched Shogun fights, go back and watch a lot of them, because they're very, 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 very entertaining.
Go back and watch him fight in a gaff in a house full of people watching and getting knocked out when he was like 16 or something. This guy, you know, this guy's been around a long time, and maybe his age isn't as old as the damage to his body and the wear and tear on his body, but he had a great career. He's another one of these guys who, you know, was kind of like a mythical creature from Pride, and people were talking about their fantasy matchups in the UFC, and he kind of came in and had a shock loss to Forrest Griffin, who was kind of an Ultimate Fighter guy, and they weren't respected at the time. They were kind of like the reality TV guys. They were kind of like, they're on a tier below, and obviously Forrest had a huge win there, and maybe, you know, a bit of the kind of the mythology behind Shogun was in jeopardy, but he came back and, you know, captured the title. And, you know, when he fought John Jones on short notice, and John Jones just absolutely destroyed him, it seemed like, you know, maybe the game had kind of passed him by, but he you know, kept in there, and maybe, you know, never took the game as seriously as you know, others around him at the same kind of level as him, and maybe that kind of held him back a little bit from fully realizing his potential. You know, he didn't have exactly the best physique fight to fight compared to other guys, and maybe didn't put in the same hard work and hard hours, but for natural talent and for some of the finishes and some of the fights, and even, you know, the way he knocked out Lyoto Machida after that really controversial first fight. And there was loads of great moments even in the UFC before his Pride, ignoring his Pride stuff, and in Pride, the soccer kick stuff, like fights, he's a really exciting fighter for years, and in some great moments. And to see him just fucking get destroyed by some nobody is in his hometown or in his home country is, you know, it's just fucking typical MMA.
It is typical MMA. And I think your point you made as well about him maybe not being in, you know, pristine shape all the time and all, I think that drew people to him as well. He was an everyman kind of, I suppose, even though he was a massive outlier in terms of his ability, and that's kind of sometimes a key as well to
and a great nickname as well. That always helps.
Yeah, it was brilliant nickname. So congratulations, Shogun, on a great career, and looking forward to our next one. Bruno Ferreira then got an absolute massive I don't know, was this a jab or a left hook or what it was, but it doesn't matter. It landed anyway. It wasn't a hook anyway. It was either a jab or a straight, but he was kind of switching stances and he just came straight down the middle, hit Gregory Rodriguez, Robocop, and he put his absolute lights out. So good stuff there by him. Thiago Moises got the rear naked choke against Costa. That was nice as well. He kind of dominated that fight. Costa a few levels below, I think. Great to see Munir Lazez getting mounted and choked out in 49 seconds, the absolute prick. Jalton Almeida then got...
What did he do again? I can't even remember.
He was the guy that shouted out Daniel Kinahan in the cage after his last fight. So, fuck him, basically.
Sure. These things happen sometimes.
They do, in fairness, they do. Jalton Almeida, God almighty, this guy... he destroyed Shammy. Like, I was thinking in this one, I was like, look, you know what? Shammy's big and strong. Maybe he's going to fucking struggle to take him down. About 10 seconds in, he picks him up, lifts him over the fucking cage nearly, and slams him down on the ground. I thought Shammy did actually a great job of defending for as long as he did, but he just... the fight was beat out of him by a Jalton Almeida. Absolutely devastated him. And this guy is a problem. He's a problem not only at heavyweight, he's a problem at light heavyweight as well. And God almighty, if this guy's not a champion, I'd be surprised. He's an absolute beast. So looking forward.
Hasn't lost in 5 years. You know, his two losses were early in his career. He's been putting people away like ever since. He hasn't even been to a decision. You know, he means business when he was in there. As you said, from the first exchange, you could see that, you know, this was going to be an uphill struggle for Shammy, and you know, as you said, he kind of put up as much resilient effort as he could, but he was just completely outclassed.
Yeah, 100%. Cody Stamen then got the unanimous decision over Luan Lacerda. That was the point of the card where I stopped paying attention because it was so boring. Israel Bonfim then, you know, before his brother Gabriel got the finish, he also got the flying knee, lovely flying knee against Terence McKinney. You know, with Jose Aldo Cade's side, he did the like double knee, the double, the one fake and one right up the middle. Beautiful, beautiful flying knee. Terence McKinney, I don't know, all the hopes we had for him. It's easy to say it after a loss, but he just seems like a guy who, do you know what? He seems like a guy who could do like a lot of sparring or something like that. Every time he gets hit, it feels like he's kind of fallen away from it, and he's a bit tentative. And when he does get hit, it kind of changes him and it changes the fight. I don't think you'll get to a top level being like that, to be honest. Now, he has a lot of plus points. But
Charles Oliveira.
Yeah, exactly. He could, you know. And what happened to Charles Oliveira? He became a fucking champion, so it could happen. Nicholas Dalby. What a performance for Nicholas Dalby. God almighty. I thought this was the performance of his career. I thought he was brilliant against Warley Alves. And the fact he came after Josiana Nunes and Zara Fern, which is absolutely shit. It looked like prime Demetrius Johnson fighting fucking prime John Jones in a it looked like the best fight I've ever seen. And but God, I was so good, Nicholas Dalby. His kick into the body and his shot selection and everything from Dalby was way better than I've ever seen it before, against a very good fighter in Warley Alves in Brazil as well. So great, congrats to him. Yeah, as I said, that women's featherweight fight was surely a women's featherweight fight. Not great. Zara Fern though came out and she shocked a lot of people by doing well in the first couple of rounds, but then ended up losing to Josiana Nunes. And then the first fight of the night was a knee to the body finish for Daniel Marcos against Simon Oliveira. There was a big clinch from Simon. Marcos was landing the better shots. His body shots were very good, and he kind of beat the fight out of him then towards the end of the second round. So good stuff there. Right, Graeme, we'll leave it mostly at that, but I have to touch on what a week it's been for Irish MMA in terms of announcements. First of all, Danny McCormack, she's fighting Valeska Machado for the championship over in Invicta, the first Irish woman to fight there. Obviously, you know, Catherine Costigan was there before, and we see Katie Saul there at the moment, and Sean O'Bannon there at the moment as well. And maybe there's probably a couple I'm missing out on. I think, did Sinead have one fight there? Maybe, I'm not sure. But it's, you know, Invicta is a great place to be and a great organisation to fight in. And it's, you know, if you're one of the best female fighters in the world up and coming, Invicta is the place to be. And if Danny could pick up that title, it'd be absolutely massive for her. And she's an interview coming up with Ian this week as well, so check that out over in SevereMMA. I got a sneak peek and it's a very, very good interview. She's great one to speak, Danny, and I'm delighted for her. She went on a great run in Bellator to start off her career. What was it, five wins in a row she got? And I was talking about her signing for the UFC and all of that, but Bellator gave her a couple of tough matchups. She was trying to find fights during the pandemic, getting that experience. It didn't go great, and then she bounced back, got a win again over in Invicta, did a great job there, and now she's earned herself a title shot. So Danny is, she's a very, very, very good fighter. Probably doesn't get the credit she deserves for what she's done.
It's always the same. When you're 5-0, everybody's saying you're going to be the best, and when you lose one or two, then people are saying you're the worst. But they're learning experiences, and she's earlier in her career. She obviously is. I think she said before in an interview that she's kind of in a little bit of a rush due to kind of starting the sport late, and you got to take a few chances. But I'm sure she's we've heard her speaking about how she's kind of changed some things and learned from mistakes she's made in those fights, and now this is a big opportunity. If she goes in there and wins, she's the Invicta champion. That's huge. And I'm not one for usually trying to match Irish fighters versus Irish fighters, but it seems like from everything I've heard that maybe there's a bit of beef there, and there's a bit of a huge rivalry there. And if Danny McCormick was to win the title, and Shauna was to win her next fight or her next couple of fights, Invicta would be stupid to not put on that fight. That'd be a huge fight for them, and one that could kind of get them some headlines probably in the lead up to the fight, which they probably are finding increasingly hard to get.
Look, I think that's the best case scenario for everyone. If everyone keeps winning and everyone gets there, absolutely. And I think Danny, she didn't reply to any of that, and she, after her last fight, and you'll hear in the interview.
Yeah, we know fighters though. Fighters.
No, but in fairness, she was saying I have a title shot here coming up. Why the fuck would I be talking, and listening to someone else calling me out when I'm getting a title shot here? Which makes great sense, and I think it'd be the same.
It's easy to say that though. We know fighters and how sensitive they are.
But in terms of who you're going to fight next, and in terms of what is the biggest fight for you, I don't know. I think. That's a fight for down the line. Maybe it'd be a great fight if it could happen. And if Shauna keeps winning, if Danny wins the title, then absolutely, I think everyone would love that to happen. But you're not going to take that fight in front of a title shot and a possibility of winning the title, maybe defending.
No. I was talking about if Danny wins the title, getting Shauna in there against her.
Yeah, it could happen. I think it'd be absolutely massive. But at the moment, she'll be concentrating on the title shot, and fair play to her on that one. Rhys McKee, then he got the main event spot in Cage Warriors Dublin. He's going to be fighting Jimmy Wallhead for the unification bout for the welterweight title. A massive fight. Look, we're going to have obviously a lot more talk about this Cage Warriors card over the next while, but I'm delighted for Rhys, because Rhys is a guy, sometimes because Rhys is a bit unassuming, and he did an interview with Andy this week as well, and he just goes out there, he improves, he fucking fights really well. He probably doesn't get the credit he deserves as well. He's another one, and I'm delighted to see he's getting the main event spot here. And his fight against Justin Burlinson last year was one of the best fights worldwide. I don't give a shit what anyone says. And Rhys, I know you've known Rhys for a long time, and every time I've spoken to Rhys, he's been very nice and everything like that, and he's just a good fighter. He just really is. And I was sick for him the way it happened in the UFC, and to get this massive opportunity again to headline in your home country is absolutely huge. So I'm really looking forward to that. The other fights announced for that was, oh Lord, James Sheehan against Oban Elliott. This is a fight. Oh my God, I have a great relationship with Oban. I've interviewed him a few times. Obviously, we've sponsored James Sheehan a couple of times as well. This is brilliant.
Jesus, Sean, put your pants back on, fuck's sake.
I love this fight. I couldn't love it anymore. It's to me this is going to be a bit of a Leah and Sinead fight to me, because I like the two of these lads so much. I mean, Jesus, don't be hurting each other, lads. don't feel that, but what a great fight.
It's Sean being in the back and not being able to watch.
Not being able to watch, yeah.
His two boys.
You're my boy.
Fighting for the Sheehan family name isn't enough to trumpet for James, no?
It's not, indeed. No, it's not. Well, maybe, you know, I'd have to do Oban, you'd never know. He might turn heel on me now or something, you never know. But other fights announced as well. Kiefer Crosby is fighting Alex Oliveira. What the fuck is that about? Over in Portugal or somewhere? What an opportunity though for Kiefer. If he beats Alex Oliveira, he could very well be in the UFC. He just fell out of the UFC. I think that's for a title as well over in that promotion. So massive fight for Kiefer, who's been injured for the last while. So delighted for him as well to be getting that opportunity. Nathan Kelly is fighting Zachary Hicks. He's in the Challenger Series in PFL now. He's not in the European Series. So that's interesting. He won't be on the December 8 card if all goes well and if he gets into this Challenger Series finale. So that's a bit of an odd one, but still delighted to see him getting that opportunity. Oberon Shaban is fighting Mush Al-Sani. That's on, I think, a London card maybe. So it looks like he's not going to be on the Dublin card unless maybe he gets a win in a quick turnaround. But Kenan Loughran looks like his fight's not going to be on the Dublin card as well, so those are a couple of disappointments. Another big fight though as well, James Gallagher against Leandro Higo, also not going to be on the Bellator Dublin card. That's going to be on in San Jose or somewhere.
The prelims in San Jose, yeah. It makes a load of sense.
This is
why are you laughing?
I don't know. I want to be nice to Bellator, but this is one of the most stupid, idiotic things I've ever seen in my life.
Maybe they'll change the card like real last minute and stick him on the main card. I don't know.
But like stick him on the Dublin main card.
They're known to do that, but at least that'll be something. But yeah, why not have him on the Dublin card? I have no idea. Maybe James didn't want to fight in the Dublin card. I don't see that being the reason realistically.
James has constantly said like he wanted on that card. I don't know.
Why do Bellator not want to put him on that card? I have no idea. Literally, I have no idea.
Yeah, but Bellator are going to Bellator, as someone replied in the comments to this announcement. They absolutely are. So, yeah, like
a timing thing. I don't know. It's yeah. But the matchup is like, you know, it's an interesting matchup.
Great fight. Yeah, really
positioning on the card and positioning of the event or on the event. Yeah, I don't know. But it's great. It'd be great to see James back, and it's a tough test coming back. You know, we've known about Ligo for a while. Brian Moore, his teammates, been calling for the fight, and you know
that makes it even more bizarre. Like the fact that Moore wanted to fight, he called him out. He accepted. Said he'd fight him in Ireland, and then that didn't happen either. Do you know what? I love this fight.
It's expected that they put Brian on a random card at the prelims against somebody, but like for James, it's out of the ordinary. They've kind of, you know, had him in main events and kind of built events around him in the past. I don't know why the change in direction here, and just I have no idea.
I think what Cage Warriors have done really well here, right, is announce fights that people got really excited for. And now, like when people were like myself and Ian did a show where we were like made our dream card, and I saw someone else putting up a thing as well. Like 2 of the fights that were on the dream card have already been announced, and there's only been like 3 or 4 fights announced. And fucking Ryan Shelley against Tobias Harila has been announced as well. What a fucking fight that is! Like it feels like Cage Warriors are doing everything they can to make the Irish fans happy, and it feels like Bellator are doing everything they can.
Do you think it's a thing that Cage Warriors understand the scene better, or do you think it's just Bellator just don't give a fuck? I don't know.
Bellator, it's like this Bellator card is so bad. It's like it's purposely bad. I don't know. It's not purposely bad, but it's God Almighty. It's senseless. Like it really is. Like I understand giving us that main event. It's a great main event and all, and you know, top level fight. Perfect, but like give us a massive Queally fight that we care about underneath. Like Queally's fighting some lad
even
from America.
If you just put the James fight on the card, you'll be happy.
If you put the James fight in this card, it would change the whole thing around. Put that in co-main event and it changes the whole thing around. Then you have this massive James fight, you have a Queally fight to look forward to, even though it's not a massive fight. The Sinead fight's a very good fight. The Pedro fight's a very good fight as well. You know, Charlie Ward is fighting Shipman on the miles on the undercard is not a bad fight either. The Brian Moore, look, everyone loves to see Brian Moore, and on the night it'll be good. The fans will be there, they'll be roaring and shouting and everything. But like it just feels your word jeopardy just feels like there's way less jeopardy. And
with the resources they have there at their fingertips, it just seems like they could have, you know, done more easily.
100%. 100%. Like, even if you make Queally against Kane Musa, that was supposed to happen a while back. They've been calling each other out. It'd be a great fight. Do that. Put, as I said, the James versus Higo fight. Or put James versus someone else. James versus anyone. It doesn't matter. Make Moore versus Higo. Those 3 small changes make this card a brilliant card that the Irish fans will absolutely love. 3 small changes, like, and not things that are wild, like Higo and Gallagher are fighting a couple of weeks later. Moore's already on the card. Kane Musa was calling to fight Peter Queally. Peter Queally would have no problem taking that fight, I'm sure. Just, I don't know. It's just so weird. It's just, I don't know what has happened here. But anyway, and it's an interesting time as well, because tickets are on sale now for all of these things. Like, if I was a fan, I know which I'd be buying tickets to, and it'd 100% be Cage Warriors over Bellator if there was only one chance, only one decision. 100%. I think if Bellator deny that, they're fooling themselves.
But if Bellator put the James fight on that card, would that change it, in your opinion?
It'd make it closer. It might, because like James Gallagher is like a big star.
It would make both unmissable.
It would make both unmissable. Yeah, I'd probably buy tickets to both in that case. Yeah, and now like Bellator, there's never been a more missable Bellator card recently anyway, even though there's some good fights on it, and no disrespect to anyone on the card, but you have to make these things unmissable because there's going to be so much.
Surely there must be some reason why this makes sense that we're just missing, because otherwise it's just fucking
I can tell you, Graeme, there isn't. The Bellator think this is
Danny, if you're listening, you're probably listening. Send Sean a message and abuse him a bit, and then tell us why this makes sense.
I was already told. They think this is a great card. I know,
but why not make it a better card with James?
I have no idea.
I don't know.
I have no idea.
You can make it better easily, and it doesn't really affect any other card. What it affects the prelims of a San Jose card.
I don't know. Maybe James has in his contract that he gets first class tickets, and they don't want to pay 10 grand to send him to Ireland or something. Maybe that's it. The cost cutting that's got on there. Maybe that's part of it, is it? I don't know.
I don't know. Yeah,
that's the only thing I can think of that makes sense.
I don't know. Maybe something's going on. I don't know what's going on.
Yeah. Anyway, shall we leave it there? Very positive week for Irish MMA. We may have ended in a bit of a negative there, but look, that card, when you're there and you're sitting there and watching it, and I will be there.
It's definitely going to be great crack. It's just when they can so easily use the resources they have under contract to make a card better and not take away from another card too much. It just makes too much sense not to do, in my opinion.
Yeah. Why is MVP not on the card? Give us MVP. Give us an MVP fight. Come on, let's make that happen.
That's getting maybe a little bit greedy, but the James fight is just a no-brainer.
Yeah, it is. All right, we will leave it there. If we missed out on anything, if you have any questions to ask us, the Q&A will be out on Wednesday, as it always is now. Moved there a couple of weeks ago. I'll probably be recording it on Tuesday. So if you have any questions, at SeanSheehanBA, at SevereMMA Pod, patreon.com/SevereMMA podcast. That's where you will get that, and there's a post up on Patreon at the moment as well where you can send in your questions if you are there. Last week we got a $20 question, and it was on Man United and Liverpool, which myself and Graeme did a 50-minute podcast on. So I know some people love that when we talk about it on the podcast, some people hate it, so it's up there on Patreon if you want to listen to it, and maybe love it if you're a Man United fan, hate it if you're a Liverpool fan, and maybe a little bit in between if you're something else. So we will leave it there. Thank you to everybody for listening. Hit the subscribe button. We've only, I think only, like, what did I say last week? 40% or something of the people who listen, less even, I think, subscribe. So if you're listening to this and you're not subscribed, please do. If it's on SoundCloud or iTunes or Spotify or whatever it is, click subscribe. It'll make a big difference to us and our numbers throughout the year. Spread it around. Spread the link. Tell them where you're listening to. Tell them this is a great podcast, that Graeme is fucking good, but Sean's great. Let them know. Let them know. All right, we leave it there. Graeme, give us your quote for the week.
Bridges are meant for burning when the people and memories they join aren't the same.
See you next Tuesday. Or probably Sunday.